Good afternoon, Michael.
Hi, Hans.
We're live.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm Michael Guerin. I'm CEO of both Imagination and 2454. I'm joined today by Hans Fraken, who's the film commissioner of Abu Dhabi. And our session is about producing during the pandemic. And we hope this will be a interesting, lively discussion. We'll have questions and we'll try to answer them all. So we'll just begin by saying that this has been, as you can imagine, a very difficult time for our industry because production involves lots of people in small spaces, and production around the world has basically come to a hiatus. However, both Abu Dhabi and Iceland have been the two jurisdictions in the world that I'm aware of that have managed to maintain production throughout this entire period. We've had well over $100 million of film and television production that has continued throughout this. And this has been important for lots of reasons. Number one, it's reinforced um, the discipline and care that Abu Dhabi brings to everything it does, and has increased the confidence of people to come here to produce, because not only do they have the chance to achieve the quality they desire, but to do it in a safe, COVID-free environment. And Hans is in large measure responsible for the success that we've enjoyed, because we've introduced very strict protocols that Hans will tell you about. And as a result, we just finished the shooting of Mission Impossible. That is, one day we had, I think, over 1,000 people on the set. Now that they're all back safely in the UK, we've had no COVID incidents, and this has been really, actually, in a very difficult global environment, a real boost to us. And as a result, we have a robust pipeline of production that will continue throughout this year and well into the future.
Thank you, Michael. So good morning or good evening, wherever you are in the world. Before we start, for those who aren't familiar with our organizations, perhaps we can just give a brief overview of our respective roles, the respective roles of our organizations, and how they complement both halves of the content production ecosystem. So basically, Image Nation, which Michael runs, oversees all Abu Dhabi indigenous productions. So the production of local stories with local talent for global audiences. And the Abu Dhabi Film Commission, also known as the ADFC, is largely responsible for all foreign service productions, not local, foreign. And this involves promoting Abu Dhabi as a filming destination and making sure the industry is set up to be able to service these foreign productions. And it's this vision of a complementary content production ecosystem, I'd say, that really differentiates Abu Dhabi from anywhere else in the Middle East, because there's only around a couple of dozen cities in the world that foster both halves of the production ecosystem.
Right. And our role has evolved over time, as you can imagine, because when we first began, I've been in this role now for 11 years, we actually oversaw production because we needed to demonstrate to the world that we are capable of producing at the same global standard as audiences everywhere have come to expect. With the streaming services, our world has changed significantly, because in the past, people were willing to accept quality compromises for cultural relevance. But once Netflix was able to provide audiences with access to local production from all over the world, people no longer were willing to accept those compromises, and they demanded both cultural relevance as well as production excellence. And now that we've been able to do that with films like Zinzana and our Netflix series Justice, which up until Justice has been on Netflix now for I think over 2 years, and until recently with Paranormal, it was the most successful and popular Arab language series on Netflix. But now that we've demonstrated that, our role has really changed to more from an originator to a facilitator, because now we are working with NBC, with Stars Play, with Amazon, with Netflix, Paramount, and others to help both ensure that the projects that they do here that are global based here are both excellent in quality of production, but also culturally relevant and appropriate.
Right. So the topic of this conversation is maintaining production during the global pandemic. And, you know, we've heard so much over the past few months about the devastating effects of the pandemic, not just on our sector, but on all sectors of the economy. So as a counterbalance, Michael and I thought we might try to highlight some of the positive aspects that have come out of this crisis. This is obviously in no way to diminish the devastating effects in our cultural industries, but rather, I think, to shed light on some of the positive aspects that have come out of this, and perhaps more importantly, to give hope to our artists and workers in the cultural fields. Um, you know, so I might just start off by saying Abu Dhabi was very fortunate enough to be just one of a handful of jurisdictions around the world that managed to keep on producing during the pandemic. But this fortune really wasn't by happenstance, but rather a result of a rapid and carefully thought out response strategy by the Abu Dhabi government in the face of a threat that at the time, remember, we still didn't really understand what it was and how it was going to affect anyone. So, but the government took no chances. And before we knew it, there was COVID stations set up all over the place. Protocols were put in place, and the Ministry of Health communicated information updates on a daily basis. So there was, so they you know, it allowed the population and our industry to feel very secure working in this virtual bubble we could call Abu Dhabi. And because Abu Dhabi managed to keep the infection rates under relative control, it did make the decision to allow the continuation of certain vital cultural economic sectors, such as film and TV production. And I don't know if you mentioned this, Michael, but as a result, we had nearly $100 million worth of production in 2020 from a dozen service productions, including Inheritance and Mission Impossible.
Right. And both of these were really critically important because they were both sides of what we're trying to achieve here. Inheritance, for those who don't know, is a daily soap opera in its second season, co-produced with NBC. And it's a story like most soap opera stories of families in competition with each other. And with a film, once it's in the can, they can decide on the release date. But we don't have that luxury with a daily soap opera. It airs every single day of the week. And so if we were unable to continue production, it would be devastating because the continuity of the airing is critical to its success. The interesting thing about and the very happy outcome of this series, it's the first original soap opera from our region. And it started in March of last year, and throughout the entire broadcast, including Ramadan, when all the money is spent on production, and networks are putting their best fare of the whole year into those 28 days, it never fell below number 5 in the audience ratings in Saudi, where the vast majority of the advertising revenues for television come from, and because the 32 million inhabitants of the kingdom reside. And but when all those Ramadan series ended, uh, inheritance continued, and so we went from number 5 to number 1, and we now renewed, and we're in production for our second series. This is also culturally critical, because with television and so many episodes, we've already been able to train and develop a local and regional talent the way that they would advance their experience and their skill levels in Hollywood or London or Mumbai or Shanghai. And we actually have young Emiratis and Saudis that started out as interns who are now directing episodes. And with 500 episodes, we really can now develop crews and the behind the camera skills that are critical to building a self-sustaining industry here.
Yeah, and you know what's amazing in both cases, Inheritance, which was a Image Nation co-production, and Mission Impossible, which was obviously a service production. In spite of the hundreds and hundreds of people working on these sets, we didn't have one case of COVID, not one. And that is really attributed to these very strict protocols that you guys put in place for Inheritance, and that we put in place with Paramount Pictures for Mission Impossible. For a week and a half, we had over 300 extras, and so we devised a protocol where we divided into 5 bubble zones. So on set, these 5 zones could never interact, and they also stayed in 5 different hotels. They could, and the staff in those hotels could not leave the bubble either. It was very strict. They got tested every second day, including 2 days for a week after production. So extremely strict measures. So so I think we fared really well for all the reasons we mentioned out of this. But besides the ongoing productions that Abu Dhabi was afforded during 2020, I think the other opportunity that was opened up to us was it gave us time and perspective, Michael, for us to lay down the strategy for building Abu Dhabi's new production services ecosystem in line with global best practices and proven benchmarks. And what I mean by this is industrial development. In any production center, the production ecosystem stool needs 4 legs for it to stand on and stay upright. Locations, which we have an abundance of in Abu Dhabi; rebates, the all-important subsidy system; infrastructure; and crews. And infrastructure is not only the sound stages and the warehouses needed to film interior, which is very important in an environment like Abu Dhabi, but also it's the creation of a visual effects hub and a virtual production hub. And this is important because it's really the future of the technical aspect of filmmaking. And this is what will make Abu Dhabi a global hub versus a regional hub. And then that 4th leg of the stool is the crew base. And that's a big part of what we're doing at the Film Commission now, is trying to grow this crew base. And there's really only 2 ways to achieve that. One is to import the talent and expertise, and the other is the training aspect. So importing these experts from all around the world has 2 benefits. They work in the productions that we attract, but they also train the students in the academic institutions. in the private universities. And as a matter of fact, we just created an internship program in function of the rebates, where every production that comes has to hire an intern to shadow every one of the key below the line crafts. So it can be cinematography, production accounting, set decoration, art direction, gaffing, the whole gamut. And so I think this is this strat, and the time we had last year, despite being busy with productions, allowed us to really narrow this strategy. And I think we're really set up for Abu Dhabi to be a global production center within the next 5 years.
Right. And I hope people find this interesting, but one of the things that was a challenge when I first arrived here, and we started with Mohammed Al Mubarak, our chairman, to try to build this industry. We live in a region with great ambitions, and in large measure, the means of our ambitions. The leadership wanted the tallest building in the world. We have the Burj Khalifa. They wanted a great airline. We have two of the greatest airlines in the world, Emirates and Etihad. But what I had to do, and fortunately the leadership understood that our industry was one that money wasn't the scarce resource. Our scarce resource was talent and the patience to give the talent the time to grow and develop and learn their skills the way that they would in the rest of the world. And so it's now been 11 years, and it's been that patient nurturing of local talent that has really allowed us to arrive at the place that we are at today. That's not common in this region, because people have expectations of immediate gratification, and this is just not an industry where that is possible or realistic.
Michael, I see we got our first question here from Krushid Book. He says it may be a stupid question. There's no such thing, only stupid answers.
Yeah, stupid answers, no stupid questions.
But his asking, Mr. Hans, tell us about getting financing from banks. Well, there's really only two ways the banks get, and I gather you're talking about production. I gather you're talking about film or TV series production, Krushid. And there's really only two ways banks get involved in this part of the industry, which is rebase discounting or completion bonding, or gap financing. So rebase discounting is, you're probably going to produce in a jurisdiction one of the few, like Abu Dhabi, who offers a rebate. In Abu Dhabi, the rebate is 30%. And so you can negotiate with once you get the interim certificate from the Film Commission approving your project, your script, your budget. Once you get that interim certificate, you can bring that to a bank and have them lend you the equivalent amount that we have evaluated will be your rebate. Obviously, they'll charge a certain fee. No capital is free, but that is one way that you can deal with the banks. The other is completion bonding or gap financing. But right now, one of the reasons why production has nearly come to a standstill all around the world is because insurance companies are very reticent to insure during the pandemic, because the risk factor is just so high that productions are finding it virtually impossible to get their productions insured, which explains why we're seeing so much content being produced by the streamers right now, because not only because the cinemas are closed and it's the only way to consume filmed entertainment, but also these streamers have become virtual studios. Netflix is actually now, in terms of cap value, is richer than the Hollywood studios. And so they insure and bankroll their own productions. So, so until the pandemic is over, it's very difficult to get a bank to actually insure and finance that gap piece of your budget, but at least you can count on Abu Dhabi for the rebates.
Right. But it also underscores some of the challenges that aspiring creators face, because this is an industry where uh, the quality of the project, while obviously critically important, isn't enough. You need somebody to put up the financing. And you have really, I think, two different systems, both quite separate from each other. One is television production, the other is film production. The reason I've always loved the television business is it's an industry where you sell it and then make it. And that obviously has its own challenges, because the gatekeepers are making all the decisions as to what they want to buy and air, and so that's a development sales challenge that everybody in our industry faces. Film is a little different because you have quite a diverse source of financing. For the biggest projects, you have the studios, of course, and because of the hopes that film, unlike television, because television is an industry with a floor, as I said, because you sell it and then you make it, and the people who are the creatives participate in the success financially, but they have quite a limited upside, because the license fee is the revenue of the project. Whereas everybody has the hopes that their film is going to be a breakout and will make, untold millions of dollars of profit. And so you not only have the studios as a source of financing, but you have private investors, you have friends and family, you have lots of other ways of financing pictures. So the financing really is a function of the medium that you're creating content for.
Right. We just had another interesting question, Michael. The theme of this year's summit is the economy of culture, and how important is the production industry, to the cultural economy. That's a great question, very apropos. And I would say really the production industry is one of the most economically vibrant of all cultural sectors, especially in terms of job creation and inward investment. Um, I'll give you a couple of benchmarks. So before coming to Abu Dhabi, I was the Quebec Film and Television Commissioner. And during my 9-year tenure there, we generated over $1.3 billion of inward investment, direct inward investment, another 3 billion in indirect economic impact. And that created over 30,000 full-time equivalent jobs. And this is massive on any scale. And those numbers really explain why many governments around the world have prioritized the creative production sector as a strategic growth sector, and why they're investing heavily into film and television production industries.
Right.
And Michael, I just see another question from our friend Alreem Al Hossani, who we know, and she's asking about do we think this region will gain more attention in the future because of how well we've been maintaining production during the pandemic? And that's also a really smart question, and it really relates to what I was just talking about, because these government strategy prioritizations make even more, the film and television production sector, they make even more sense when tourism is also a government priority sector, because of the synergies between the two industries. And Abu Dhabi, I think, is a model for this type of potential synergy between production and tourism. And I'll give you a great example. We were just talking about Mission Impossible that filmed here last month. Well, this production not only spent millions of dollars in the Abu Dhabi economy, but it's going to be seen by hundreds of millions of people around the world. But more importantly, the scenes that were filmed in Abu Dhabi are also set in Abu Dhabi, meaning that the Abu Dhabi is part of the storyline. It takes place in Abu Dhabi. So I can't say where it was filmed, but when it's released, audiences around the world will be astounded by what they see. And this will undoubtedly contribute to driving that awareness you're asking about, Alreen, and driving tourism from all around the world. And I think, you know, this is how we see this whole ecosystem come full circle back to the cultural economy, because ultimately one of the main benefactors of tourism is the whole cultural ecosystem, the performing artists, the museums, the heritage sites, the entertainment venues.
Right. And also, Hans and I have been talking a lot about training and development. The idea that we have a crew, a professional, well-trained crew here has a major impact on the local economy, because if we didn't, we'd have situations where people would come, use us as a location, fly in most of the team to produce the film, and then leave. But when people know that there's constant work here, they'll move here, live here, and that means they'll either buy or rent homes, they'll send their kids to schools, they will buy cars, they will buy food, and what we call the multiplier effect on our economy is significantly higher when we have a year-round industry that's populated by people who can live and work here productively and earn the same kinds or even higher salaries than their friends who work in government and other more traditional positions, as well as you can tell from Hans and me, we love what we do. And it's an industry where people really can feel creatively fulfilled, but also meet the economic needs of their families and themselves.
And Michael, I've just been closed. We have 2 minutes to wrap up. I can't believe how fast it went. And that's probably a good way to wrap up. And we just had a question about in the Abu Dhabi Global Production Center, how important are access services, and the service industry is asking basically. And it's crucial. And this is from Laura Catalini, and it's crucially important. And when I was talking about the third pillar, developing the crew base in terms of quality and quantity. We're putting together programs now to facilitate the import of these craft experts. For example, we have now waived the fee for 2 years on freelance visas, meaning experts from anywhere in the world can come here and now work with a freelance visa. And there's a lot more we're doing too. We also run the industry online directory. So for anybody who does want to work in this industry, we're just one email or one call away at the Abu Dhabi Film Commission.
Right. And that's, I think, the best way to end, because a lot of you will have a lot of questions as a result of this. And if you go to our websites, you'll see our email addresses, and we both, Hans and I, answer our emails directly. You'll hear from us 48 hours after you get in touch. So feel free to reach out to us, and we'll do everything we can to help you either answer the questions or maybe even come and live and work here.
And
so I think
believe you,
end the session and say thank you, everybody, and help you stay safe and stay well, and wish you all the best. Thanks, Hans.
Thank you, Michael. Nice chatting. We'll talk soon.
Okay.